you shot this movie on film, and it's Quentin Tarantino was playing on film, but I feel like we get to take for granted in Los Angeles at the great cinema houses that this is a way we get to watch movies. But for you, as the filmmaker, finally getting to see it in this format, tell us about the difference of how that feels.
Well, I was up in the projection booth and I cried a little bit. Because it's a very, very magical thing. It's very interesting to see the difference. This is the first time I saw it on the 35mm print. It's by far the most beautiful experience. It's like a dream. It's literally, it feels like a dream watching it. And the way our eyes have to adjust to the flicker, right? I think that's a healthy thing, that we have to sort of like unsee that while watching it. That there's a little bit of a distraction around, so to speak.
No, and well, it's something because you shot Loose on, was that 16mm?
Yes.
And so, and you shot this movie on film, and how is it laced into sort of your imagination about how you bring a movie to life? Is that how you kind of see a movie coming to life when you're making it, with that difference in tangibility, that even though we may be used to sort of digital projection at this point, are you still kind of like, are you thinking in film?
I feel like that the way a camera with film sees the world is more like how my eyes work. The sort of brain, I feel like I have it in my vision. I have it right now. When I look into your eyes, there's shadows here and there's a little bit of gray here. So I feel like it feels more natural. I don't know if honestly, I have no comparison because I've never shot anything digitally, because I was so lucky that in art school, where I didn't went to film school, but to an art school that had a film department, so to speak. And we learned to shoot on 16mm in like a sort of basic camera cinematography class, where we just learned like the very basics first, how a camera works, and it was very important to our teachers to have us understand how to shoot film, how to prepare a camera, how to do all the tests. And then when we shot what was it? It was like an exercise, and they gave us a roll of 16mm. So me and my friend, we shot at West End on the soundstage, because we had like 8 days to shoot, and we built like a cabin, and we shot it there. And it was the first time that I shot something on film, and we had to really prepare for it, and we didn't have a monitor to double, triple check what we were doing and manipulating things to death, so to speak. And then we had to wait for the laboratory for it to come back. And it was such a magic moment to receive the material a couple days later with fresh eyes. And the same thing I'm appreciating now, that I wait 24 hours or sometimes 48 hours for the rushes or the days. And it's really good and healthy to check your material like this.
Does it give you kind of like fresh eyes, like sort of
totally? Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's always the danger of manipulating things to death by like, I'll just try this, I'll just raise the contrast a little or something. And I think it's way better to, have an idea and stick to it and see if it works. If you shoot film, you can shoot fewer takes, because everything's super expensive. And then 35mm camera, it's really heavy. It's way heavier than like an Alexa, which you can just handle way easier. So everything takes more time. But all these obstacles, I think, are very good.
That's such I feel like it's a healthy approach to filmmaker, because it is such an arduous job of like patience, but also determination and an insatiability to do your job, that to feel like it being harder is a virtue feels as inextricable from the calling as a healthy amount of delusion to get the job done.
Well, exactly. Delusion. It is the why should it be easy? It's the craziest thing to do. It should be hard. But it's so nice to do something that's really hard.
Well, now for Neon this year, what a banger year for Neon. Yeah, for real. And so we kick off the year with Immaculate, Let's Go, keep sprinting, get long legs into Cuckoo, and with long legs and Cuckoo in particular, we have these creatures, these villains or malevolents, however you describe them, that I think can rise to the status of like sort of mythic proportions. That's something I thought about a lot watching Long Legs. And I wanted to hear from you, who are the sort of, like, what sort of formative, I guess, like fairy tales or demons or monsters or cinema or from the page or otherwise that were really kicking around in your head in leading to you wanting to create your own sort of monster myth?
That's a good question. I don't think I had one single inspiration from literature or film. It was a wild mix of things.
Yeah, what's in a milkshake?
Yeah. I knew I wanted her to be this feminine beauty ideal from a bygone era. Sort of, I wanted her to have a haunting quality. And my visual inspiration was Audrey Hepburn in Charade, where she walks around with a headscarf and glasses, trench coat, and leather.
The legacy all new Charade would have. Time. This is going to be a hell creature one day.
Well, we were really close to that, and then when we tried out wigs for her, we had like a 60s, not like a 70s wigs with bangs that we really liked, but it sort of was right, and then it put like a sort of Marilyn Monroe wig on her. That's it. That is sort of the iconic haunting.
It's a real His Girl Friday kind of thing. Like she'd be the woman standing opposite you on the train platform kind of thing.
Yeah. And then I had a bunch of inspiration just from nature, like everything from the horrific jewel wasp that lays its eggs into underneath the shell. Do you call it a shell in English for bugs? Under the cockroaches?
Oh, like the exoskeleton.
The exoskeleton? Yeah. It stings it in the brain to numb it, and then it's like willingness, and then it leads it like a little dog into its cave and lays its eggs underneath the exoskeleton.
Nature's the body.
Yeah, it's horrific. So we went a little softer, but
I don't know.
it's kind of
human offering its own ejaculate to manually inseminate a woman.
Well, maybe we didn't went softer. We went just a different route. I see that.
I'm not complaining.
And the other thing was a cuttlefish. Cuttlefish, they can change their appearance and face, and they can project all crazy things on their tentacles. So what they do is they spread their tentacles, and then they have like weird pulsating things going on there, and like a little fish. It's just like staring there, sitting in the sea, staring at the soil, and
eat. Well, and I want to, because I feel like I guess conventional wisdom, but it is that like you have monsters kind of like hide the visuals, right? Talk to me about your decision to like give us this creature kind of early on. Like we get a pretty solid look at the monster. I hate how monsters are so powerful, but like at this and not be afraid to unveil, like to show the cards. Talk about that as the director.
That's a really good question. It was back and forth in the edit, where we were like figuring out how much we wanted to show and when.
I was wondering if it was something you always knew, or if it came out in...
Well, I mean, in a way, I always knew it. We shot it, so it was written like that, right? But then in the edit, you question things, right? And because in the edit, then the movie's kind of different because, well, whatever happened on set. But I think the same way, I didn't hide that there's something strange going on with Sam Stevens.
Yeah.
He shows up and say, okay, we know where this is going, but when is it going there?
Yeah, he says hi, and we know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
we know what direction.
so because I think that's the story for that. And with her, because, I mean, there's this obvious sort of parallel of Gretchen, Hunter's character, having lost her mom, and she's grieving, and all of a sudden she's haunted and hunted by this ghostly woman, right? And I felt like her presence, being very strong, was the right thing to do, to make you feel that way.
And like I said, I feel bad using the word monster because I have a lot of sympathy for this being. And I wanted to, where do you come down, feelings-wise, on the entity? Because, I mean, I can't really blame her. Like,
no,
she's in a tough spot.
Yeah. She's. I mean, I don't see her as a monster or a villain.
Yeah.
She's an opponent, if you want to talk a script writing terminology. But it's clearly not her fault. And we made the point that in the way she looks, I never wanted to go really horrific and like giving her fangs or horns. But we thought about like, what if she had like crazy extremities or something? That didn't feel right. What we went doing was we made her disease, like malnourished or victim bloodshot eyes, unhealthy skin, because that was telling a way more tragic story while still having something that is functional and appalling, sort of speaks to the viewers or fundamental existential horror of other bodies, not getting sick.
Yeah, because I think like, she's so frightening, but then, like, when we're introduced to the notion that, like, well, she's easier to control if she has, like, a youngling to take care of. And that was heartbreaking when I watched it, because it was like, oh, she'll be more docile if you give her a kid to take care of. It's like, well, that's an ultimate fucked up way of manipulating any being, especially when you want to turn into a weapon in your favor.
Yeah, that movie, even though it's also a fun ride, it came out of a big sadness. I wrote it or started thinking about it. The ideas came when I was sound mixing my film Lose, and that was a student film, and I thought nobody would ever watch this. And we were just doing that for us.
Take a chance on your student films, guys.
Yeah,
Believe in the work.
I was depressed and I got panic attacks every day. It was a horrible time. And that stopped then when that movie found its home in an audience, and that was a very beautiful thing, but I was in a good place. So I felt really sad and hopeless. So all these feelings, they got in there. And ultimately I wanted to write something that is very bittersweet, but kind of hopeful in the end.
Well, for my own personal curiosity, I was wanting to ask you about what is it like coming off of making an independent movie? Like, it's a movie that no one's going to watch it. And it becomes like festival darling, top 10 lists at the end of the year, like best work, it came out this year. What is that like coming off of that cycle and then getting into it again to making the movie? Is it a relief to go into something new, or is it kind of like, well, shit, I'm on a sugar high now, and like, how do I collect myself after this? I'm really interested in the psychology of having a breakout hit. And you are now my subject for consideration.
I don't know.
Yeah. You just black out. And then Cuckoo happened.
No, I'm pretty good at ignoring stuff.
Okay.
Stuffing it deep down. For example,
That sounds
when you make a movie and you're responsible for a lot of money, you cannot think about that.
Great.
Right? So I'm kind of approaching it like this. Like I'm really good at trying to ignore it. And sometimes, but sometimes it makes it also so that I don't really appreciate the good moments. And now I'm trying to learn to appreciate this.
Well, it's hard to do that in filmmaking at times. It's like when you get good news about a project, it's like, oh, I can't wait till people find out this good news in 28 months. So it's like, I'm going to celebrate this so far after the moment and then something to me.
You get the question a lot, like, are you excited for like shooting, or are you excited for the and often it's like, oh yeah, we've been working on it for like 2 years already. I'm tired.
It's like casting announcement the other day in the trades, and then like that actress on social media was like, hey, we should show you guys the BTS photos from my experience. Like, you know what? You just got this job.
Right.
5 years ago.
Can't wait for the DVD coming.
Yeah. What is it that you, like, I don't know if you fancy yourself a horror director, or if you endeavored to work in the genre, how you have a couple times in a row now, but what is it that you find about this genre as a compelling vehicle for the stories and intentions and themes that interest you?
I think it's the most expressive genre of all of them, and it's just bold strokes, big feelings, feelings of sadness or despair, or actually hope and love. You know, because if you have a very dark palette, you can create also something very strikingly beautiful coming out of it, and something very bright, right? And that's what I love, and I love that ever since I was a child. I loved scary, morbid stories. It was always fascinating with that. So I don't think I will ever go away. I'm not married or that I'm just doing horror, but I love horror. It's great.
I'm glad you're saying that. I totally agree. You talked about the house as being like a specific part of the DNA of this movie, and I wondered what about that sense of place just had to be the setting for this film for you.
That's a good question, and I thought about it quite a bit. I think, first of all, being in the mountains. So I really like being in the mountains. I really like being in the Alps in Europe or in Germany too. And when I go, I need a couple of days to adjust to actually be able to see sort of the dramatic landscape, right? So I can actually understand it. And then it's quite beautiful, but there's always a tension, because you already have this arena and you kind of look over mountains, you kind of easily walk over it, right? So I think that's a really healthy surrounding for a story like this. And then when I'm in the mountains, like after 1.5 to 2 weeks, it kind of becomes oppressive too, and you kind of have to leave, or at least me. It's like, okay, it's time to leave. It's time to go back into, flat land.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in Berlin, there's but the other thing is that I knew I wanted the story to be set in Germany, and I wanted to sort of play around with how the world perceives Germany. And it's like everything's mountains, everything's sort of Bavaria, the state where like all the things come from, the Cuckoo clocks and the Lederhosen and shit, all that shit.
All year round.
Exactly, all of that comes from there.
Yeah.
And so we just had a fun time doing that.
Yeah, really myth-busting that it's not just facing and like cheering signs. So sorry, America. Sorry, America. I guess we can't get out of it without talking about it's obviously a phrase, but it's like to say that like you took a chance on Hunter Schafer, but this is the first time that Hunter has carried a role as being the primary star. And I mean, established as I think a sort of emotional hurricane in the roles we've seen her in before this, but talk to me about bringing her on and sort of the progression of the work that she did to get ready for this character, between like casting us back in COVID times to like getting on set and making this movie.
Well, you said it took a chance, or you disagree? I didn't take a chance.
I mean, yes,
I
completely agree.
But I know what you mean. But back then we cast had 2 years before we could actually shoot the movie because of COVID. I was going to push the lunch. I hadn't seen Euphoria, but I started watching it when it was recommended to me.
Oh, you hadn't even seen it?
No, I had no idea.
Okay,
I had no idea.
She didn't radar at all, or she just like an audition tape?
Kind of live under a rock.
Oh, no, I think that's a testament to like the raw nature of the talent that you saw.
Absolutely. I was so impressed about her work in Euphoria. Her first time pretty insane.
Yeah.
So I was impressed, and I knew she could be a strong wretch. I sort of knew that. But because it was COVID, I couldn't come to Los Angeles to do a proper casting or something like that, or to meet up. So we had to do takes. And that's a pretty shitty thing for actors.
Right.
Take yourself in a room during COVID times, where your roommate is helping you out.
I think the word you described was like, it's thankless to send in.
Thankless. And then also judging yourself and then selecting a take and sending it off was horrific, right? But 100% a take where I was immediately sure she was perfect. Like it was, everything was in there. She was oozing Gretchen. It was a deep connection I felt she had with the character, with the story. And I made up my mind right there. But then when we started shooting the movie eventually, and I knew this was going to be good with her, it was going to be great, we had to shoot all of the scenes in the family house. Because that was our first location, and we had to shoot all of them the first week. And there's some intense scenes there, some intense emotional scenes. And then how did I have to shoot these on day 2 or something? So on day 2, she had to do these insane, emotional, heavy lifting scenes, and that's where you're like, oh, this is going to be actually really special.
Yeah.
This is going to be amazing.
And by then, I read to the issues of like tonsil bass, and she had started singing by then, like tonsil silent. Oh, that's right. Yeah, like got really depth with the butterfly knife.
Yeah.
I'm glad she spent the time doing her homework. I guess my last movie in a year of wonderful dirtbag Dan Stevens, from New King Kong to Abigail to this. Did you know exactly what you wanted from Dan Stevens coming into this, given his body of work? Or did he show up with a magic that you were just like, oh, there's so much more possibility here than I didn't realize?
Well, I was just such a fan of his before. I knew how good he was and how versatile he was in his acting. And he came on really, really late. Because we had John Malkovich before the longest time.
That is a different emotion.
That would have been a very, very different movie.
Like, really upsetting still, but different.
Very different.
Wow.
And our sketches didn't work out. And Dan came in really late, and we had this Zoom call where he told me like, I don't think that character has to be 60 plus years old, like you wrote it, and I think he can be my age. And it just like, has to be just like symbolically 60. And I was like, I'm listening.
That's a great pitch.
And then he started telling me about this German person. I don't remember if it was a woman or a man. I think a friend of his that he liked very much, or maybe even loved as a friend, but it was extremely esoteric. Super German. Was like hiking through Tibet without shoes on or something, but also crazy rich. And he was telling me about it, and we were laughing this entire phone call, and it felt honestly like we were becoming friends right then.
I had the pleasure of interviewing him before, and boy, there are a few people were charming.
Right.
Then you're just like, oh my god, are you from?
Such a charming man. I love him. And I knew it back then, so it was an easy decision.
Alright, well, I feel like we can go on, like, we can send you guys into the night with the slightly worse reality John Malkovich in this movie in your mind. But send Tilman Singer out with a great round of applause